Hi, this is Tony Stewart with the Who Are These Guys podcast. This week I'm at the Global Summit on AIDS at the church at Saddleback Church, hosted by Pastor Rick Warren and his wife Kay Warren. Yesterday was the first day. I'm just getting a chance now to shoot a video, but the first day addressed three major questions. The first question was, what are the traits of a real leader? The second question is, who can be involved in the AIDS effort? And the third question was, why should the church lead in the AIDS effort? Now, the best point from the question asked on what are the traits of a real leader came from basically you need to be more aware of the AIDS epidemic and the things going on around you. And you need to then become an advocate for where God pulls on your heart to get involved. Kay told the story of how she's gotten involved in this AIDS effort from reading an article about all the orphans that have come out of the AIDS pandemic in Africa, and how getting and knowing that information stirred her heart to become an advocate for the AIDS effort. And now she says she's transitioned into becoming an activist, which is where she takes intentional action to bring about change. And the second question about who can lead, Pastor Rick Warren talked about how there needs to be a three-legged stool approach, where there needs to be the public sector, where governments and NGOs are involved. There needs to be a private sector where businesses and corporations are involved in the AIDS effort. But there also must be a third leg to that stool, which is the faith sector, where the church must be the grassroots implementation for caring and supporting and reaching out to the rejected and sick. And they even talked about a new form in Rwanda of coming out with new ideas on how healthcare can be distributed through churches in hard-to-reach areas where medical attention is not what it needs to be towards the AIDS effort. The final question was, why should the church lead in this AIDS effort? And they had speakers like John Ortberg and other amazing pastors come and talk about why the church should lead. Pastor John Ortberg talked about the parable of Mark 5, where Jesus took the disciples across the sea over to the Canaanites, and they were met by a demon-possessed man, and how following Jesus always means you need to go to the other side to talk and serve and meet people who are even offensive to you, who aren't in your comfort zone. But his main point was really two things. One, the church has the Holy Spirit. That means we have the power of God to go and support and meet the AIDS effort like no other organization and no other sector can. And two, there's no healing power like the power of Jesus in people's lives across the earth in addressing this epidemic. There was another pastor from South Africa who made the comment that in his ministry, he'd always been focused on saving souls. He said it was saddening and kind of disruptive when you realize that God had called him to save people, not just souls. A soul is a part of who they are, but there's also a biblical mandate to meet the needs of people, to meet the sick, the poor, the suffering, the rejected. And there's no greater group of people that are handling that right now than with the AIDS pandemic that's going on. So that was the summary of the first day at the Global AIDS Summit. The Global Summit on AIDS in the church here at Saddleback Church. I'm Tony Stewart, the Who Are These Guys podcast. I'll be doing updates throughout the day on my blog at whoarethiseguyspodcast.com, but also video updates, so please stay tuned. We'll see you then.